I think Mateo's going to take the lead on this one. Mateo, take us away.
Oh yeah, finally I'm starting, and I'm sure you have realized that usually whenever I introduce a topic, I have my art in here. I'm not doing that today because today's topic is awful. I really mean awful. Please guys check it. NBC News bring us this, and thank you to Broke the Misanthrope, a member from the ACD Discord server who suggested the topic. This is about a megachurch leader who pretends to be the son of God who has been charged with sex trafficking. And this starts awfully. This is literally the introduction to this topic. To the article. Apollo Carrion Killboy is close friend of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. He is the leader of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ Church, which claims to have 6 million members. And yeah, this awful story happened in Los Angeles, and it explains how, and I'm quoting again, the leader of a Philippines-based church was charged with having sex with women and underage girls who face threats of eternal damnation if they didn't sleep with him. So once again, guys, here we have this huge way how religion is going to harm people. Religion convinced children that there is a soul and that the soul is in danger. And at the same time, I have talked about this before, how churches want to stop people from educating their children in sexual education. So of course, children have no idea that they have intimate parts that shouldn't be touched by adults, especially by certain priests or pastors. And then this guy, who is a figure of authority, tells them, hey, if you don't let me touch your naked body, you are going to go to hell because you're not obeying God and what religion says. So I really hate these guys. It's awful, and this is one of the many reasons why I think that education is the best way to help people. That sexual education should be is a must that we should have everywhere. And that's why I oppose religion and their influence so much, because religion turns sex into a taboo and therefore turns sex education into something evil. And then you have this type of people doing this. So yeah,
Well said.
that was my rant. Nate?
Well said. No, I've long been a proponent of the approach that sex ed is the best way to inoculate your children against sexual abuse. You know, using the actual words for the anatomy, teaching them about consent, it's absolutely super important. I kind of feel like this church that claims to have 6 million members is kind of like 1 million moms that has like what 4,000.
If
Claims are
that,
easy to make. Evidence is hard to come up with. But
that's right.
Cynthia, what do you have to say?
You know, so when I was actually reading this article, uh, I thought of the Bible verse that's Exodus 21:7-8. And this is the New Living Translation when it says, when a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years as the men are. And then verse 8 says, if she does not satisfy the owner. And as we are familiar with the phrase, do you know your partner in the biblical sense? It's Thursday where Richard is. That means
Says Digger
that,
Man.
yeah, that means that y'all was, bumping uglies, okay? Then, and if she did not satisfy her owner in all of her duties, including bumping uglies, then he must allow her to be brought back again. But he is not allowed to sell her to foreigners since he is the one who broke the contract with her. And I saw that when this when I was reading that verse and also looking at this article, it took me like there to the umpteenth power. This particular pastor uses his position of authority, likes to maybe not maybe, but pretty much cherry picks, the verses to actually steel man his position concerning being able to exact said authority over these women and girls in order for him to take advantage of them. And I thought it was just like so crazy, like, you know, the when like we are constantly like going over these stories. you know, whether if it was like the Catholic Church or even like other churches where ministers, pastors, you know, church authority leaders are like really using their positions in order for them to sexually exploit members and even children. And it's and you know, like some people are always asking the question like, well, why does this continuously happen? Like, you know, how is this like people who call themselves men and women of God or what have you feel the notion that they can do such a thing? But there's so many passages, even though I just read one where I mean, like the Bible actually condones this type of behavior, you know? So, and, and, and so like people can actually like take like, especially like some of these church leaders to say that I have the absolute right to do this. You know, even though like society doesn't necessarily condone this and they should not because it's harmful. But I mean, but they can. I mean, even like when you think about like even in the article, it talks about how he um recruited women and girls, typically between the ages of 12 to 25 years old, as his pastorals. And he used them as servants. They cooked his meals, they cleaned his house, they massaged him, traveled with him around the world. And he also had them on a night duty. I'm sorry, like he had them on a schedule called night duty.
Night duty.
Right, night duty. And you know what happened that night, okay? Like I said, bumping uglies. You know, I was trying somebody rocking knocking the boots. So if anybody from the 90s remember that song, that's what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like, and I just really hate that this whole thing was just happening while he was like sitting up here indoctrinating these women and indoctrinating these girls, threatening them with the possibility of their eternal souls being damned if they did not give themselves to this man, you know, body, mind, and proverbial soul in order for him to have their way with them. And this is egregious.
It's awful. I feel like this segment is just going to be, you know, four rants. So let's give Richard a chance to launch into one because I want to hear this.
Yeah, look, this it's all very well saying, you know, this shit like this in the Bible, that we know this shit like this in the Bible, and we know a lot of people use it to excuse this behavior. I don't particularly think in this case he's citing the Bible to do that. Like as with many of these kind of independent church leaders, he claims he's got a special relationship with God. He calls himself the appointed son of God. And you know, he makes claims such as he stopped a major earthquake in the southern Philippines. And in
I love that one.
2019 CNN article, the way he stopped the earthquake was by saying, "I said earthquake, stop," and it stopped. Now, I'm not calling him a liar. I'm not. He may believe wholeheartedly that it caused it to stop. But he seems to be unaware that correlation isn't causation, and simply the act of him stating something and then the thing happening is not him making it stop. But, you know, so is coming from this kind of independent, I am the kind of the leader, I've got this special relationship perspective. And the indictment, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it wasn't just inappropriate behavior with minors that it was undertaking. It was the article says that he took part in conspiracy, sex trafficking of children, sex trafficking by force, fraud and coercion, marriage fraud, money laundering, cash smuggling, and visa fraud. So this is an all-round shitbag. Let's be right. It's not just someone who's like using the Bible to justify inappropriate behavior. He's just a genuinely bad person.
Well, Richard, let's test this. Okay? Like, because we talk about like approaching these things from like an empirical, skeptical point of view, right? So let's test this. Let's see that if we can say something and it's going to happen because we are invoking the power of God. You ready? Let's do it. Recording, stream, stop. Okay.
Cynthia.
You've done it.
Damn it. I'm a prophet. Shit. I got the power, motherfucker.
Give us a He-Man thing. I have the power.
I'm
Yeah,
glad that you can laugh,
this
guys.
for me is like, this is the flip side of purity culture, right? It's purity culture saying God says don't have sex. And then there's the flip side where some equally despicable person is, God says have sex, and actually he says have sex with me specifically, and that's kind of the rub, right? Is when you think that some invisible sky daddy's watching you, and you're so indoctrinated that you believe this, and you want to please this character. This is when this unhealthy shit comes to pass. Mateo, I'm sorry I cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I just have just another rant against churches in general, specifically Catholic Church, but lots of churches. I'm sure you know what happened in Australia when Jehovah's Witnesses didn't want to talk about the children being raped inside their church.
Yep.
And I have talked several times about how Protestants have the same problem with their churches. And here I have a list only of the Catholic Church, because for some reason I just wanted to make a quick list of that, starting with in the 60s. Between 1960 and 1980, there was a guy who raped several children. 15 of them talked. 1994, Mother Teresa wrote a letter defending Donald Maguire, a famous pedophile. 2015, the Parole Liberté was created. It was created in 2015. 2015. Sorry. I'm very upset about this. But they were a group of people who wanted to talk about what somebody from a specific school in Rome had, how they had been raped. They realized that children had been raped in France since the 50s. It was public knowledge. Everybody knew about that, at least inside the school. They could use crucifixes to rape children. It's one of the most disgusting things ever. I have also 2018, Pope Francis traveled to Chile and accused the victims of the victims who were raped. He accused them of defamation for daring to speak against the priests. And 3 years ago, 2019, the Catholic Church was investigating in Pennsylvania, and it was discovered that priests over there had abused over 1,000 children over the decades. I mean, 1,000 children.
These stories are all over the place. There's no shortage of this stuff, and
we keep going and
it
going.
seems like it's good to shine a light on it, but it gets so frustrating after a while. But we do need to start wrapping up. So, Richard, what is your final thought on this bastard?
Well, first of all, just touching on what Mateo said, that look, it's not just Christianity. Abuse of women and children goes on in all the world's religions. So let's not just tar Christians with it. It happens in Buddhism, it happens in Hinduism, it happens in Islam. It's not just Christianity, it's religion. And specifically about Christianity, the threat of hell in Christianity has always been used, and it's always been a trauma-inducing event. You only have to ask those who've come out of religion who still hold on to that fear. But there's a special kind of bastard who uses it to make girls and women scared enough to want to sleep with him, to feel like they have to sleep with him. That just shows what kind of man this is, and nothing more needs to be said on that.
Agreed. Yeah, it's not just Christianity. It's almost like sex as a motivator is a big thing for humans, and awful people are going to use it for awful reasons.
Yeah, almost.
That part. That part.
Cynthia?
Yes. Well, I did want to point out one of the things that was stated in the article that I found pretty ironic. There was a quote that said that and I believe this is from like the church legal counsel. It said that we are confident and ready to face whatever is hurled against Pastor, I think his is Quiboli, and the
Mhm.
kingdom leaders. I think that, the church itself is called Kingdom Church, etc. We trust the process of justice, and we certainly expect the truth to prevail, and the kingdom ministry will continue to prosper. And I wrote this in my notes. I shudder at what the church legal counsel considers as prospering, especially in this particular case. I mean, because like, as you pointed out, Richard, like it's not just for what he was doing to these girls. I mean, like, it's for money laundering. It's for uh he had a nonprofit called the Children's Joy Foundation in the USA, where it was supposed to benefit um poor children in the Philippines. But Pastor Quiboli, Caboy Quiboloy, so sorry, hooked on phonics work for me, was using this particular nonprofit to finance his lavish lifestyle. They said like at least about $20 million was sent back to the church in the Philippines between 2014 and 2019, according to an FBI affidavit filed in the previous indictment. So like this guy was like living large while he was scheduling people for night duties, and yes, it's not just Christianity. It's in a lot of different religions where people in leadership positions and they're considered trusted authorities on said religion use this in order for them to exact harm and control other people. And it's wrong. And I love to see the day where we don't have to cover stuff like this anymore. But it's unfortunately it's prevalent. I mean, we just even talked about last week when we were covering what happened to the New Orleans church diocese that took all that money for FEMA. And the reason why they were able to only give like 1% back is because they were being sued by multiple people for all the sex abuse scandals that was going on in that particular archdiocese alone. So this is a thing that just constantly happens. And until like people actually just say, you know what, enough is enough, and they make their leaders take accountability for their particular actions, we're going to keep on seeing this happening.
Of
Yeah,
course.
no,
Closing
it's
thoughts,
terrible.
Mateo.
Yeah, I want to keep my rant, but I will try to make it brief. And one of the things that makes me sick is that people keep supporting the church. I mean, guys, I swear, if the ACA did something that I totally disagree with and I'm totally against, you would never see me here again. Sorry, I could miss you, but yeah, I couldn't be able to be with somebody or with an institution able to do something that I consider awful, disgusting, or that goes against human rights. People know that this happens in all, not all, but they know that this happens in the Catholic Church. They know that the Pope protects pedophiles, and people keep giving their money. I mean, people, don't you feel a little bit guilty about knowing that all that money that you give is being used to defend pedophiles, and instead of helping people, you are just covering criminals? You are helping criminals get away from the punishment that they need. So that always hits me hard.
I don't know how anybody can be Catholic in 2021, especially like
Right.
myself being a Canadian, and the scandals with residential schools, and getting back to what you guys were talking about. We had the Archbishop of Winnipeg saying that the victims were just after money, and that's all they wanted. Like, yeah, they totally wanted to trade away their childhood and the conditions of abject poverty, being raped and ignored and mistreated, and just to come back to you 40 years later when you dig up their bones to get money. That's absolutely, it's despicable. It's despicable. But I think we're gonna move on. I think we could all rant about this for another 40 minutes, but apparently we do have other articles to talk about.